From AccuWeather.com, this is AccuWeather Daily, a brief host-read article. It's weather news in a nutshell. Well, it looks like the eastern Pacific is gearing up for a burst of tropical storms and possibly some hurricanes, while activity in the Atlantic basin is kind of quiet for now, as a broad area of dry air, strong wind shear, and Saharan dust has suppressed tropical development across much of the Atlantic basin during the past couple of weeks. AccuWeather's lead hurricane expert Alex De Silva said that AccuWeather foresees some of these inhibitive conditions easing a bit during the second half of July, with the traditional areas to watch being the southwestern Atlantic and the Gulf. A weak area of low pressure may also try to form along the north-central to the northeastern Gulf Coast later on this week. The disturbance would develop near a stalled front within a plume of tropical moisture extending westward from the Atlantic around the southern edge of a sprawling heat dome. For a tropical depression or a storm to develop, a low-pressure area would first have to organize, acquire some tropical characteristics, and remain over water long enough to strengthen. But if anything does develop in this area, the storm would likely move into the Florida Panhandle, bringing the chance for flooding rain across portions of the southeastern U.S. Those requirements may prove difficult to meet, but the zone from near the Louisiana coast to waters along the Florida Panhandle will be watched extra closely late this week and into the weekend. Now, with El Niño established over the Pacific and potentially strengthening into one of the strongest events on record this autumn, atmospheric conditions are expected to remain less favorable for Atlantic tropical development. So as a result, AccuWeather's tropical weather team has slightly lowered its forecast for the number of named storms this year in the Atlantic. De Silva pointed out that the forecast of 4 to 7 hurricanes and 2 to 4 major hurricanes remains unchanged. AccuWeather has lowered the range of named storms to 8 to 14. The Atlantic averages 14 named storms per season. So far, the Atlantic has produced only Tropical Storm Arthur. Despite the expected lull, the northern and eastern Gulf, the Carolina coast, and the western Caribbean remain areas where rapid tropical development could occur. With the early onset of El Niño and the potential for it to become one of the strongest on record, or a super El Niño, the number of tropical storms in the eastern Pacific is expected to reach well into the double digits this year. Both tropical storms and hurricanes are forecast to be well above the historical average. Already this season, the eastern Pacific had produced 4 named tropical storms. There are a handful of areas that De Silva and AccuWeather's team of tropical meteorologists are watching for development in the Pacific this week. One such area will steer clear of the Hawaiian Islands. Another disturbance near Mexico could strengthen and persist long enough to reach the latitude of the California-Mexico border while remaining hundreds of miles offshore. By then, however, it would likely be a weakening post-tropical system with little or no rain or wind. Meanwhile, in the western Pacific, former super typhoon Bavi was losing wind intensity over eastern China on Sunday. Bavi is forecast to curve northeastward and interact with a front over the Korean peninsula with a general 1 to 4 inches of rain on Monday. Bavi peaked as a 180-mile-per-hour Category 5 super typhoon earlier in July, blasting Guam and the northern Mariana Islands with devastating winds and delivering torrential rain to parts of the Philippines, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and mainland China, causing life-threatening and destructive flooding. The full extent of casualties and damage from Bavi remains under assessment. That's all for now. You can find regional forecasts and science-based articles at AccuWeather.com. And for your local forecast at your fingertips, download the AccuWeather app. Enjoy the rest of your day, stay weather aware, and I'll be back tomorrow with more from AccuWeather.